I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Hope you're all having a wonderful start to your week, and I hope that you had a blessed weekend. I would like to give a shout out to happy anniversary, 26 years to Wayne and Sherry, who are two of the show moderators. 26 years of wedding bless. And I wish you guys 100 more years under Republican leadership only, though. All righty, kicking off into tonight's show. The Democrat-led House Select Committee that investigated the Capitol riots back on January 6th of 2021 failed to accurately preserve documents, data, and video depositions, including communication it had with the Biden White House that are missing, according to the Republican lawmakers who are overseeing their investigation. The GOP investigation into the committee's work. The now disbanded J6 committee, which was run by Democrats and included only two Republican members handpicked by then Nancy Pelosi, because they were openly admitted hatred towards President Trump. And those were Congresswoman Liz Cheney and Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Also failed to provide any evidence that it looked into the Capitol Hill security failures on the day of the riot. Representative Barry Loudermilk, chairman of the subcommittee of the oversight for the Committee on the House Administration, said, Loudermilk said his staff has had difficulty gathering all the information it needs to investigate Representative Benny Thompson handling of the J6 investigation. Part of our task as the Oversight Committee is to actually address the security failures, look into how it happened. How were these folks able to get into the Capitol? Loudermilk said. He said documents they obtained came over in boxes and completely unorganized. Nothing was indexed. There were no table of contents indexed. Usually when you conduct this type of a level of investigation, use a database system and everything is digitalized and indexed. We got nothing like that. We just got raw data, he said. So it took us a long time going through it. And one thing started realizing is that we don't have anything much at all from the blue team. The blue team, as directed by Loudermilk, represents a group within the J6 committee that was directed to investigate security failures at the Capitol. Now, we've all heard Republican members during the January 6th incident and afterwards coming forward. Even Donald Trump has spoke about this. And we've had whistleblowers speak about this, whistleblowers from Capitol Police as well as the FBI, that have said that there were many different things that took place that day that they knew about was going to possibly take place weeks, if not months, leading up to that date. And there was a failure in leadership, obviously, to do anything about it. We do know that Trump contacted Nancy Pelosi and asked about activating the National Guard. Would that be something that should be done, or bringing in the military or extra law enforcement? And she said no. Now, that's on record, all right? Loudermilk explained that sources have told him the blue team is essentially shut down by the committee in order to focus on placing the blame on former President Trump. We've got lots of depositions. We've got lots of subpoenas. We got video and other documents provided through subpoenas by individuals, but we're not seeing anything from the blue team as far as reports on the investigation that they did looking to the actual breach itself. What we also realized we didn't have was the videos of all the depositions. Loudermilk said that he has been contacted by a defense attorney that needed access to key information in one of the video depositions, and the committee realized it didn't have the videos he was seeking. So attorneys represented someone or several people that had been charged with the January 6th incident, had needed video evidence that the J6 committee had to prove their person they represented being innocent, or that they didn't do what they claimed they did. And those videos just happened to not be saved. Fox News Digital obtained correspondence letters between Loudermilk and Thompson's office in which the two disagree on whether the J6 committee preserved what it was required to under House rules. Again, it's just like Hillary Clinton. When told, do not delete those emails, we're subpoenaing them, and she does it anyhow. Well, the Democrats, by law, are not allowed to, or even Republicans, whoever's having a committee that's investigating something, are not allowed to destroy that evidence. It's part of record. It stays as part of record. And they did it anyhow. Loudermilk says Thompson's committee was required by law and House rules to preserve and turn over all data related to their investigation at the end of the congressional term this past December. And Loudermilk said as much to Thompson in a letter dated on June 26th. In response, Thompson wrote a letter saying that Loudermilk's letter had many factual errors and claimed his committee had followed the rules and turned over 4 terabytes of data. Loudermilk told Fox News Digital this committee has only received 2.5 terabytes of data and said the first footnote in Thompson's letter to him on July 7th acknowledges they did not keep what they were supposed to. In that footnote, Thomas wrote, consistent with guidance from the Office of the Clerk and other authorities, the Select Committee did not archive temporary committee records that were not elevated by the committee's actions, such as the use in hearings of official publications or those that did not further its investigative activities. So you respond to the Republicans by saying that, your information that what you're saying is full of factual errors, but in admitting in the beginning of your letter that you didn't save this shit. And that's what the letter was about. Accordingly, and contrary to your letter's implication, the Select Committee was not obligated to archive all video recordings and transcribe interviews or depositions. Based on guidance from House authorities, the Select Committee determined that the written transcripts provided by nonpartisan personnel official reporters, which the witnesses and Select Committee staff had the opportunity to review for error, were the official permanent records of described interviews and depositions for all purposes of rule. Republicans have long maintained that many security warnings were ignored leading up to the Capitol Hill riot, which is supported by Steve A. Sun, former chief of Capitol Police, who wrote in his book that several government agencies had intelligence of a brewing threat, but failed to communicate any of this with Capitol Police. He's saying they decided that they didn't have to, Loudermilk told Fox News Digital. It was clear in law they had to, especially, and I mean, if there was any question, the fact that they used the videos and the hearings would dictate it had to be preserved. The more was going to be more, realizing that there's things that we don't have. We don't have anything about security photos of the Capitol, and we don't have the videos of the depositions. Leadership and law enforcement failures within the U.S. Capitol left the complex vulnerable on January 6, 2021. Republican-led investigation concluded last year. The Democrat-led investigation to the House Representatives, however, has disagreed those international failings that exposed the Capitol to violence that day. Additionally, Loudermilk said he came across a letter that was not turned over to his committee from Thompson to White House Special Counsel Richard Saul, a DHS, discussing an agreement made between the J6 committee and the executive branch to interview personnel whose names were later redacted. No version of that letter to Mr. Robert, either redacted or unredacted, or the letter to DHS General Counsel was archived by the Select Committee or provided to this committee, Loudermilk wrote to Thompson. Additionally, there is no explanation of what transcripts these letters are referring to or why you, in accordance with the Speaker Pelosi, did not immediately archive the records with the clerk. Why didn't they preserve this? Letterman said. Did they not want us to know what there were documents that would look bad against them, or video that would look bad against them and what they were trying to do here? On the communication it had with the White House, Thompson wrote in his letter to Loudermilk and the Select Committee did not have the opportunity to properly archive the materials with the rest of the records for the benefit of the executive branch's guidance to ensure witness safety or national security and law enforcement sensitive information. And that, my friends, is bullshit. In a letter to both the White House counsel and DHS counsel sent Tuesday, Loudermilk asked to arrange for the return of all original documents and videos, records related to the events of January 6, 2021, that the White House and DHS possess that originated from the Select Committee. The heavily redacted letter goes over loans of documents to the White House was published as part of the government's publishing office public release of documents to the Select Committee, Louderman wrote. However, the original unredacted letter from the Select Committee to you, as well as the records referenced in the letter, were not provided to the Committee on House Administration as required by House rules. Once again, the Democrats make up their own rules and regulations, and they break their own rules and regulations. When it comes to Republicans, well, don't try it, or you will be crucified, just like Christ was. You ever heard of the company Proterra? Proterra. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's the electric bus company, repeatedly celebrated by President Biden. Well, the electric bus company has now filed for bankruptcy. They did that yesterday, blaming various market headwinds for its financial struggles. The California-based company filed a volunteer Chapter 11 reorganization under the U.S. Bankruptcy Code in the District of Delaware to strengthen its financial position because nobody's buying electric buses. Proterra said it would continue to operate its business as normal, including paying employees salaries and benefits and compensating vendors and suppliers during the process. The foundation we have built has set the stage for decarbonization across the commercial vehicle industry as a whole, and we recognize the great potential in all of our product offering to enable this important transformation. Proterra CEO Gareth Joyce said in a statement. This is why we're taking action to separate each product line through the Chapter 11 reorganization process to maximize their independent potential. The freaking words and the way they come out with shit, just be honest. You're not selling electric buses. Cities don't want them. Counties don't want them. States don't want them. Even Democrat states don't want them. While our best-in-class electric vehicle and battery technologies have set an industry standard, we have faced various market and Microeconomic headwinds that have impacted our ability to officially scale all of our opportunities together, he added. As commercial vehicles accelerate towards electrification, we look forward to sharpening our focus as a leading EV battery technology supplier for the benefit of many stakeholders. The company confirmed the Chapter 11 bankruptcy in an 8K filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission yesterday. Proterra, meanwhile, has been boosted by the Biden administration on multiple occasions since they took office in January 2021. On April 20th, 2021, Biden hosted a virtual White House event to spotlight Proterra's business. During the event, Proterra executives took the president on a virtual tour of the company's South Carolina manufacturing facility where its buses are assembled. I want you all to know I used to be a bus driver, Biden remarked. And he drove a train, and he was a pilot. I think he was a rock and roll singer. His son died in Iraq. Jesus, this guy he was a bus driver now. Biden remarked at the conclusion of the event, "You think I'm kidding? I'm not. I worked my way through law school driving a school bus." I'm sorry. I'm going to come down there and see you in person, so I look forward to seeing y'all, he concluded. Would you like that guy? Imagine Joe Biden driving your kids to school on a bus. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a professional show. Biden also touted his support for billions of dollars in federal funding to accelerate the adoption of zero-emission transit buses and school buses during the tour. He has set a goal for all buses made in America to be zero emissions by 2030. The president has since touted Proterra as an American electric vehicle success story in multiple speeches about his green energy goal. I'm sorry, Joe, but when you file bankruptcy, your business isn't quite what you think it is. Earlier this year, he even appointed Joyce, Proterra's CEO, to serve on the White House Export Council, the principal national advisory committee on international trade. Joyce serves as chief executive officer and board member at Proterra. Joyce brings to Proterra a long and distinguished career that spans the automotive, aviation, and consulting industries with a constant focus on environmental stability and decarbonizing the transportation sector, the White House said this past February 28th. Through his leadership, Joyce is growing potential EV battery manufacturing footprint in the United States and accelerating the transit of other commercial vehicles to zero-emission solutions. It added, in addition, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm has faced widespread criticism for her ownership stake at Proterra. That's right. She owns stock in the company. Granholm has served on Proterra's board before her confirmation to lead the Department of Energy and continued holding shares of the company for months after her confirmation. We are pleased that Secretary Granholm has eventually done the right thing and divorced herself from Proterra. Many questions remain unanswered. Michael Chamberlain, the director of Project to Public Trust, said in May of 2021 after Graham sold her shares. While Secretary Graham also no longer owns the stock, the American public deserve answers as to why this conflict of interest of hers was allowed to go on for as long as it did. I got through that. All right, so while we're talking about electric vehicles and how they're going to change the world, one of the biggest dangers associated with electric vehicles is their battery pack potential to catch on fire, which can have devastating consequences. With electric vehicle sales on the rise, concerns over potential electric vehicle hazards are growing. Automakers have taken flack in the media with scathing headlines over reported battery fires. Tesla, Chevrolet, Hyundai, and Ford have all found themselves in the limelight. Production of Ford's F-150 Lightning batteries came to a halt in February of 2023 after a battery-related issue arose at a Ford Dearborn plant. According to CNBC report, a fire broke out at the automaker's holding lot during a pre-delivery qualified inspection while the F-150 Lightning was charging. Initially, the automaker said F-150 Lightning production would be on hold for around a week, but almost a month passed before it actually resumed on March 13th. Now, a story that I probably should have printed up for you guys so I could go over right now was what came out yesterday. So look it up when the show's over with, please, about how Ford is losing billions of dollars right now because nobody's buying their electric truck that they put all this money and effort into. A recall report from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reveals that Ford identified and recalled the 18 electric pickup trucks that were impacted by deficient batteries. The company found that a problem in the battery cells could cause an initial internal short while the vehicle is charging, which is blamed on production process deviations at the supplier. Ford isn't the first automaker to have an electric vehicle battery fire issue. Routers reported fires occurred in Tesla vehicles going back as far as early as 2013, only a year after Model S first went into production. In response to these first reported fires, Tesla said it would increase the ground clearance on the Model S to help mitigate the fire risk to undercarriage where the battery pack is located. Chevy has also been in the spotlight for electric vehicle battery fires. According to the NHTSA, the automaker recalled over 100,000 bolts produced from 2017 to 2022 because of a potential defect in the battery packs that could cause a fire. Electric vehicle fires tend to be harder to put out in an electric vehicle due to its powertrain design and the position of the battery on the underside of the vehicle's platform. In addition, most electric vehicles are powered by lithium-ion batteries. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, fires in electric vehicles provided by these type batteries pose a risk of electrical shock to emergency responders, and damaging cells can cause uncontrolled increase in temperature and pressure called thermal runaway. This can lead to the battery fire being reignited. So, what's causing these fires? Aside from a vehicle collision, which could result in deforming or intrusion and even piercing of the battery pack, several other factors are causing electric vehicle battery fires. According to Honeywell, short circuiting, overheating or poor cooling, moisture, and manufacturing defects can cause these batteries in electric vehicles to catch fire. The U.S. Fire Administration noted that salt water is a particular concern for electric vehicle owners in coastal states where hurricanes occur. Residential salt within the battery or battery compartment can form conductive bridges that can lead to fires due to short circuiting and self-heating of the electric vehicle battery. Currently, 3 electric car fires happen per 1,000 vehicles sold. Gas-powered cars do have more fires because gasoline is highly flammable, but you don't hear about the batteries in gas-powered cars catching fire. Typically, those fires are a result of a high-speed collision, and then the gasoline ignites. 3 in 1,000. Now, something we should all pay close attention to. I've talked about this for quite some time. I'll continue to talk about it, and hopefully it doesn't come to fruition. A senior official with Russia said today that Russia is strong enough to defeat NATO countries who are assisting Ukraine aim Russia's ongoing military invasion. The official also reaffirmed Russian President Vladimir Putin's commitment to conquering eastern Ukrainian territories. Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, directly under Putin, he's equivalent basically to our vice president, accused NATO of openly fighting against Russia and vowed enemies of Russia would be vanquished in a post on Telegram earlier today. The entire NATO system is almost openly fighting against us. We are strong enough to achieve all the goals of the special military operation, Putin's deputy wrote. He also compared the current occupation of Ukraine to Moscow's invasion of neighboring Georgia back in 2008. He added, just like in 2008, our enemies will be vanquished and Russia will secure peace on its own terms. Victory will be ours. NATO has 31 member countries, with Finland being added earlier this year. Ukraine is seeking to join NATO and receive a pathway to membership. Still, world leaders said the country would only be added after its war with Russia ends, as memberships require NATO countries to also declare war on Russia. Medvedev's comments come as Ukrainian President Zelensky announced earlier today that he had a phone call with Prime Minister Mark Rutte of the Netherlands, also a NATO member. I'm grateful for the of NATO and the G7 joint declaration of support for Ukraine. We discussed future bilateral security guarantees in the framework of this declaration, which should be based on the key role of the Netherlands in coalition of fighter jets, he said. He added, I spoke about the situation on the battlefield and outlined the current defense needs, including artillery, armored vehicles, and air defense systems to protect the infrastructure of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The comments also come as Russia launched a double-tap missile strike into the downtown area Ukrainian city of Proterra Monday evening, leaving at least 7 dead. The deceased included 5 civilians, 1 rescue worker, and 1 soldier. At least 39 victims were left injured in the attack. The double-tap attack, or strike an area twice within a short period, specifically targeting resource workers in the war, Ukrainian officials said. Dunsky, governor, and I can't even pronounce this guy's name. I don't know Russian. Sorry. I'm not even going to attempt it. Said a barrage of armored missiles struck the city. About 40 minutes later, another barrage struck as rescue workers were tending to the victims of the first attack. All of the police were there because they were needed, putting their efforts into rescuing people after the first strike, he said. They knew that under the rubble were the injured. They needed to react, to dig, to retrieve, to save, and the enemy deliberately struck a second time, killing all our rescue workers. The head of the city's administration described the attack as a typical Russian scenario, 30 to 40 minutes between missiles. When rescuers come to save people's lives, another rocket arrives, and the number of casualties increase, he said in a video comment in local news media outlets. Ukrainian presidential office said Russia launched separate attacks overnight on the town, leaving 3 civilians dead, and on a village near the town, killing 2 civilians. Russia first invaded neighboring Ukraine, as you all know, back on February 24th of 2022. The invasion crossed 530 days now that this war has been going on this week. So, is it possible for Russia to defeat NATO? If nuclear weapons were not used, Russia would have to get China to side with them in a World War III style attack against the West. And who is currently performing naval military exercises together? Drum roll, please. Russia and China. In fact, over this past weekend, our military had to intercept and push away Russian and China naval ships that were acting together. Excuse me one second. They were acting together and attempting to enter U.S. waters. They also need Iran and North Korea to join them, and believe me, those talks are underway. With or without China, Iran, and North Korea, Russia can simply start firing nuclear weapons at NATO countries, to include America, as they have already hinted towards doing if they have to. And NATO would have to return fire, therefore ending all living things on planet Earth. It's not a good scenario, my friends. So, I've talked about military recruiting in the past several times so far this year, and how the recruiters are having a hard time getting people to join. And it's for numerous reasons, but in particular, this current administration. Typically, not always, but typically, the average recruit comes from a Republican conservative-backed family. That's the average that goes into the military. Yes, there are some Democrats that serve in the military. Yes, there are Democrat families that send their young off to join the military. But the majority of the U.S. military personnel are Republicans. And what are they witnessing happen since this administration took over? Well, they're watching the woke military welcoming in freaks, having freak shows, clown shows, story hour by transvestites and men dressed up in women's clothing at the NCO clubs. Stupid shit like that. They watched how Biden withdrew our military forces from Afghanistan, surrendering to the Taliban and causing a complete and total chaos and leaving billions of dollars worth of military equipment to our enemy to one day be used against us on the battlefield. So it stands for reason why many Republicans are saying, I'm not going to go. Nope, I'm not going to serve my country. There's no draft, not doing it. And recruitment has plummeted. So how bad is the problem? And are recruiters cutting corners to get young men, young women, transvestites, and drag queens into the service? Well, a recent Inspector General audit found that military recruiters have skipped multiple steps in the enlistment screening process to reduce security risks and disciplinary problems by rooting out potential recruits who are affiliated with political extremist groups or criminal gangs. According to the audit, the Inspector General's objective was to determine whether military service recruiting organizations screen applicants for extremist and criminal gang behavior in accordance with the Department of Defense and military service policies and procedures. In 2021, in wake of the Capitol storming on January 6, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and the Department of Defense updated policies regarding the screening of potential recruits for extremist behavior, according to Military Times. The updated screening, including questions regarding applicants' past association with extremist groups, racially biased organizations, and violent activities. Unless applicants are approved for waivers regarding past associates with extremist organizations, they are ineligible for service in the U.S. military based on the updated policies enacted in 2021. The Inspector General audit discovered that military recruiters are inconsistent in screening applicants. In some instances, recruiters skip mandatory interviews, fingerprint checks, reviews of tattoos and potential gang-affiliated questionnaires and background investigations. And folks, let me tell you something. This is nothing new, although now it's out of fucking control. All right. Ever since the draft ended, after the Vietnam War. We did away with the draft and became an all-volunteer force. Anytime the military is not meeting its goals for recruitment, as they get closer and closer towards that end date, and they see they're not going to meet their goals, they lower the standards to get in the military. Whether it's score standards on the ASVAB, physical standards, whether or not you meet the weight, height, physical standards, criminal backgrounds. Hell, they've even gone as far as allowing judges to assign people that either go to jail or join the military. So they lower these standards, age standards, for instance, you name it, until they meet the goals. Then they raise the standards again. The screening shortfalls may mean recruits with extremist or gang associations were allowed into active duty. The report states, Inspector General Robert Scrolls added, if the military services are not completing required applicant screening steps, recruiters may not identify all applicants with extremist or criminal gang associations during the accessory screening process, increasing the potential for security risks and disruptions of good order and discipline within the joint force. The Inspector General's office conducted the audit based on a sample of recruit from 2021 and 2022. The audit discovered that 41% of recruits were not properly screened if they were affiliated with gangs or extremist groups. The audit noted that recruiters failed to use screening forms 40% of the time that they were required to. In addition to these statistics, 9% of applicants were not forced to complete fingerprinting checks or tattoo screenings to look for gang-affiliated tattoos. Additionally, in one instance, a military recruiter failed to launch a necessary background investigation into an applicant. The audit indicated that Navy recruiters consistently completed the updated screening process. However, the audit noted that Army, Air Force, and Marine Corps recruiters did not constantly follow the mandated screening procedures. Based on audit findings, the Inspector General recommended that the Pentagon remind recruiters of the importance of screening applicants for any potential affiliation with extremist groups. The audit also recommended that each branch of the military should complete a periodic review of the screening process for applicants. Each of the military branches agreed to conduct periodic reviews by earlier next year. In light of the recent audit, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army, Jeffrey Angers, provided a memo to U.S. Army Recruiting Command. Extremists and hate organization ideologies and affiliations are antithetical to Army core values, Angers stated in the memo to U.S. Army Recruiting Command. It is important to follow all the required steps for screening applicants for extremist hate and criminal gang associations during the recruiting process. Applicants associated with these beliefs and our organizations are neither permitted nor suited to join the United States military. So we've gone from lowering the standards of ASVAB scores, weight, how much you weigh, whether you're in physical shape or not, whether or not you smoke pot, all kinds of different little things here, there, and yonder, to not only all that, but now whether or not you're gang affiliated. Whether it's white supremacist or Black Panthers or BLM or Antifa or Mexican gangs, MS-13 members. You know, gangs are very, very into putting tattoos of their gangs on their body. And Just like with law enforcement, when we arrest someone and they go through the booking process, we take pictures of their tattoos so we can link them up with who they're affiliated with if they're into gangs. So we can track that data. The military does that too, except now they're hurting so bad to get people to join that they're bypassing those standards. And that, my friends, is some scary shit. Under this administration, our military has been weakened. All branches. People aren't wanting to join. The only branch that's actually meeting its goals is the Navy. The other branches are not. Now, there's a curve here. It rides, okay? It goes ups and downs all the time. But due to what people with common damn sense are watching happen with this administration and the wokeness that's taken place, the average Republican kid or kid from a Republican-backed family, especially if they're into politics, can see what's happening with this administration. And it's a no-brainer that they're not going to join the U.S. military. And I don't blame them. This ain't the military I served for. Look, for the brave men and women that are in our military, my hat's off to you. Because you're having to deal with a shit show unlike anything I ever had to experience. And that's pretty damn sad. When we're now allowing, I don't know how many of you know this, but we're now allowing members of the military that want to identify as another sex to have surgery to change to that sex. That's right. If you're a guy in the military and you decide that you want to identify as a female and you want to get a sex change operation, the military will pay for it. We also have the military intervening with military members' children that want gender surgery done, want puberty blockers. We have military doctors bending to those, not even 1%, but regardless, they're doing it. We talked about it right here on this show not too long ago, how sick it is that they're allowing that to happen. The people that are in charge of our military today, from the top to the Pentagon, are a bunch of woke assholes. I haven't seen a single one of them yet that I would have been happy to serve under. Now, I admit, I come from a complete and totally different background. All right? I grew up an alpha male. My father was an alpha male. My grandfathers were alpha males, and so forth and so forth. I come from a very long line of men who joined the military in my family. It was just wasn't even an option, really. I mean, it was just I remember when my dad was serving, the Vietnam War was still going on. I was a young boy, and I just felt that the time's going to come. I'm going to turn 18. I'll be drafted. I'll go to Vietnam. And of course, that ended before I turned 18 and became an all-volunteer force. But I come from an era, I'm 61 years old, for those of you that don't know that or are new to this show. I come from an era where men were men. period. Women were women, period. And only women had periods, period. And this other shit that we're interjecting into our military and into our everyday life, allowing men dressed as women to use the bathrooms in schools, that whatever they want to identify with, is starting to backfire. Girls are getting raped, sexually assaulted. It's turning into a freaking nightmare because there's no leadership in this country willing to step up and say that this shit's not going to happen. No, just we're not going down that road. But we continue down that road like a runaway train heading to a bridge that's out into a disaster like we've never seen before. Come this next election, I hope this doesn't happen. But if it does, mark my words, if the Democrats maintain control of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, is a Democrat as commander-in-chief of our military, our military will be no different than any other third world country. Our equipment's failing. Money's not being appropriated properly in areas of defense. There's a lot of money being put into it. Trust me, a lot of money being put into it. But it's also being removed and put in other areas after it's been appropriated for. And that's not right. But they do that with everything else. Whether it's money they put forward for COVID that gets transferred and moved elsewhere afterwards. They do the same shit with the military. And it's wrong. States do it as well, not just the federal government. Cities do it. Counties do it. It's a process that is corrupt. And there's little to no accountability for it, especially if you're a Democrat. So it is very important, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say, the Republicans get off their ass and they vote for this upcoming presidential election, as well as when the midterms arrive. Because that's the only way we're going to save this country from this disaster. I mean, the Biden administration right now is not only going after your gas stoves, they're going after your air conditioning systems for your house. They're pumping things and money into things that are pipe dreams, such as this environmental friendly America that they want. Everybody wants clean air and clean water. But when you're pushing an agenda that is above and beyond anything any other country plans to do, you can't say, oh, well, we're going to be the leader in this and they're going to follow suit. They're not going to follow suit. They don't give a shit about what we're doing. You think China is going to all of a sudden, oh, well, we're going to stop polluting the world? Or Russia? Or any country in Central or South America? Hell no. The Middle East? You think in Saudi Arabia they're pushing electric vehicles? They're drilling the shit out of oil. And once again, we have a Democrat president come into office after a Republican president got us to where we were no longer dependent on foreign oil and put us right back in that position again, depending on countries that wish us ill to supply us with oil. It's absolutely astounding. It's sad. The corruption level of not just politicians. But what we witnessed at the FBI, what we witnessed with the Department of Justice, what is this we have right now? Where are we? What do they want to do? Do they want to destroy our country? Is that what this is? Or is there a hidden agenda to make sure that we're no different than anyone else? An equal playing field? That's what they're trying to do right here within America. With us. Is that their agenda for us in the world stage? I don't know. I'm starting to think so. And I don't like what I see. I know that you don't either. So we vote. And we vote. And we vote. In large numbers. If we overwhelm them at the polls come election time, there can't be any cheating. Because we know what the numbers are, the people that show up. And that's what has to happen. Because the other way of fixing this problem, what our forefathers put into the Constitution for us to fix this problem, that I believe they actually wrote for what we're witnessing right now, the Second Amendment, you will become a domestic terrorist as far as this government's concerned, and your ass will go to prison. So that's out the window. And for all those that send me comments all the time and, oh, we got to take them out, and when are we going to step up and do something about this? And the only way you can do it is by voting. You cannot do it any other way. They will take you out. The system has been rigged in a way that completely, as far as what the Second Amendment was written for, fighting against a government gone rogue, they've rigged it to where that can't ever happen. And they want to go a step further and take away your guns and restrict your gun rights. And they're still actively trying to do that every avenue they can possibly go down. And in some cases, it works. Look at California, for instance. If you're a Republican and a conservative and you'd still live in California, I don't know what to tell you other than why. Why? Maybe you can't get out. Maybe that you don't have the money to get out, or you don't have a job to pay to get. I don't know. Maybe your house was willed to you through the family member or something, so you don't have a house to pay for, and therefore you're saving money. But other than that, leave. Get out of there. And I know many people are doing it. Many companies are doing it. They're leaving these Democrat-run states for greener pastures where they're allowed to actually be Americans. Folks, you had been a place you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to this show, as well as all my videos, and share them with your friends and family. Down in the description of this show, and as well as all my shows and videos, you can see the different places you can follow me on social media. Follow me there, and I will follow you back. That's how we spread the word. Also, please go to douglasducote.com. Check out the website. Lots of improvements are happening there. Currently, there's still improvements happening there. So if you go there and it's down at the moment, don't worry about it, because we're making all kinds of changes and updates. But we try and limit those downtimes as much as possible. And as always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. I'll see you back here on a Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. providing nothing happens between now and then. It requires me to go elsewhere, and I've been very busy these past few weeks. So anyhow, that's it for tonight's show. Thank you all for being here tonight. Much appreciated. And again, happy anniversary to two of my moderators, Sherry and Wayne. Very cool guys. Take care, everyone. God bless.